Good morning. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning.
How was your Saturday? Since I haven't seen you in so long.
Not too bad. Just a day. Putzed around a little bit. Putzing around a little bit more today. We'll see how productive I'm feeling. How about you?
Um, it was okay. I mean, I didn't do much. We watched the last two episodes of that season of Mountain Monsters.
Oh, so you're all done with the main series.
No, we're starting 8.
Oh, you're starting
So we finished the Wolf season.
Okay. Well, that's the last regular series episodes.
I thought 8 was because they're doing season 9, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on where you're watching and all that, because some of that, the it gets weird with the way they treat the seasons.
Doug's following the non-Max canon.
Okay, well, so yeah, you might have. I don't know. I guess you'll find out.
At the end, they found a Bigfoot hair, and they were all losing their collective shit.
Yeah, the wolves was the last stuff that I remember being.
There's episodes after that because we pulled it up to read the synopsis of the next episode.
Oh,
but Doug's got it on his Plex. It's not like
right.
Yeah.
Because
that last episode was both one of my least favorite and also one of my favorites, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they had to strip down Jeff to his skivvies because he covered himself in Jeff juice and the smoke wolves were coming. It was fucking hilarious. But yeah, it was something.
Yeah.
So I got an idea I wanted to talk about first.
All right.
Because of course I can't stop coming up with shit I'll never do.
Won't stop.
I thought of an idea. Tell me if this is a cool idea for, like, I would say for probably Marvel. Since this got a big superhero-y flair. Player characters are all the same character.
Yeah.
From different multiverses. So the idea would be that they all share a variation on the same name. They all would need an inciting event. So I think of like inciting events as like Peter going to the science fair,
Yeah.
Banner creating the bomb type of thing. So you all have an inciting event, and then they would all have an event that would basically lead them down their path, or a life-changing event, and then an event that leads them down their path. So they would just be the same character, but vastly different as far as like, maybe Uncle Ben did not get shot for them.
Sure.
Instead, might have been like maybe they just stayed as a celebrity, kind of like the What If kind of Spider-Man. And then somehow they all end up in the 616. And that was kind of the thing I was thinking, like, maybe their version in the 616 doesn't have any powers and is found a way to track down some type of scientists, like dealing with like resonance waves of string theory, and is basically pulling a Jet Li the one.
Sure.
And these are the first 3 that he pulls in to kill, or maybe like there's even an NPC with them and he offs the NPC right off the bat. So I thought that might be fun.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like, and it does feel like kind of almost No Way, or is it No Way Home or whatever the last Spider-Man movie was?
Yeah.
Where all the Spider-Man are hanging out together. I kind of like that idea, except for it's like they have different powers. They literally are different people because of what they've been through.
Yeah.
So they'd all have, I would say, like one shared event that they all remember as being important to them. But after that, it's kind of like they go down, different paths. So it would be like super shared character creation.
Okay.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that could be very interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw the latest Into the Spider-Verse, but it definitely kind of,
I've not.
those same things where it's like there's all these different, versions of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you're a Spider-Man, there are certain things in your world that they call them canon events.
Yeah, constants, universal constants.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, everybody's going to lose, a law enforcement officer who's close to them, but be it
Oh, yeah.
Miles' dad or George Stacy or something like that,
I need to watch that movie. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. So they've got a number of those, and then the whole deal with it is like Spider-Man 2099 is basically like, no, these have to happen. Like they can't not happen. And I will stop you from stopping them. And,
Got universal constants in
and
DC.
Miles is like, no, I'm going to save my dad.
Like, did you ever read the story with Booster Gold where he goes to stop Ted's death?
Probably, but it would have been a while.
And that he can't.
I mean,
and there's one where he also tries to I think he tries to save Barbara from being shot. And no matter what he does, he just can't do it. And Rip has to explain to him, like, hey, there's things you cannot, like, there's these things that are universal events that you can't change. Like, they're not for us to fuck with. Like, the universe will make things happen regardless. These are events that are beyond us. I kind of like that idea quite a bit. That there's these things that happen in a multiverse that no matter what you do to try to prevent them or change them, that, like you said, they're canon events. They have to occur.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the multiverse spins off its axis, so to speak, and God only knows what happens then. So I really like that idea. Now, I would say it's got to be. I can't figure out for the life of me like what system I would want to use. I've been thinking about trying to learn the multiverse system because I have a digital copy of it. Oh, Matt, look how good that looks. Looks pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't dug into any of that.
But I don't know. It's because I also had a hankering lately to want to run Masks, which I don't know if you're aware of that game or not.
No.
It's a Powered by the Apocalypse superhero game, but you're like the Teen Titans.
Okay.
So you're all sidekicks.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, kind of fucking amazing. It's a very interesting game. I have it. It's a beautiful game. Like, it's dripping in like superhero shit. I mean, it's really good. I was one of those games where when I did the Kickstarter for it, I did just the digital, and a couple other people I know did the digital, and I was like, I desperately want someone else to run this game so I can play it.
In it, yeah.
And again, it's one of those things where people were all about it until it was,
time to do it.
Yeah, and then nobody's about it. So, but it's one I've been thinking a lot about lately as well, to like go, well, maybe this would be a good one to bust out, because I've also I think doing a Teen Titans-esque game would also be very fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm just like, I had that idea pop into my head last night about doing kind of a multiversal, because I think you could get away with doing that as like one shot. It's like a 3-hour one shot. But you need to do a good session 0 beforehand. The session 0 would be so important.
Yeah.
But you know, you're like, when I think of like superhero stuff, like you're the person who I go to. I'm like, is this a good idea or not?
I mean,
and part of the way I know it's a good idea is if you were like, oh, I'd play that.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'd play. I just never do.
Yeah, but I mean,
Not,
I also think some of that though is it's. I've had you play stuff, and it was because you were interested enough to go, okay, you know what, I got it. I got to
make
do
time
this.
for this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also realize that some of it is like you are more apt to make time for something if you like the game, feel comfortable with the game, like you're like, I don't have to learn an entire new fucking language to play it. But also like you're like, oh, it's a vibe I already like, and it's people I enjoy playing pretend with. If it's not those two things, I know you're more likely to go, you know what, I'm interested, but I'm not that interested.
Yeah, it's always a balance.
Because also, I mean, everybody's time is insanely valuable. So I try real hard to keep that in mind, you know, that it's like a game is not always everyone's, like a role-playing game is not the same as it is for me for everybody else, where it's like, oh, that's like a safe haven, that's a good time place.
Sure.
For some people, it's like, this seems like a lot of work that I don't want to do.
Yeah, it could go back. It goes back and forth.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a thing where I was thinking about, like, I've been trying to figure out a game where I can entice you to come back into the fold, Matthew.
Oh, it'll happen. It's more just I'm still, feeling like I don't have enough time for my bullshit. So
yes, but I also know that if you are approached with something that will scratch that bullshit itch, that you'll be like, oh, wait a second. You know what? Now I do have time for that bullshit. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, but part of me then starts to go, okay, well, how can I scratch that? How can I entice Matthew to get back on his bullshit? Anyway, so yeah, I thought maybe a Marvel game would do that.
Yeah,
but I think also one thing I've realized is, I think the only way I could guarantee getting you back on your bullshit is if I hit you with some type of like late 70s, 1980s action movie. You know, easy, because Matt would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're doing what?" If you mean I get to kill the guy from Roadhouse? Brad Wesley. Brad Wesley's the bad guy? Fuck, I'm there. Anyway. All right. Well, I mean, I'll keep kind of throwing it around. Maybe one morning for prep school if I can get, because I would want to have like 3 to 4 players for that Marvel game.
Yeah.
I gotta pick a system. But yeah, if you're interested in masks, I can send you the thing just so you can look at it.
Because I already have it. Yeah, I mean, feel free.
The art's really good. Like I said, it's powered by the Apocalypse, so it's not overly complicated. But one of the things it adds in is like, one of the things you track is the dynamic between you and your mentor as well.
Oh.
So like that's an ever changing thing, to the point where, you know, you can get to a point where your mentor doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. And your mentor, you can get to the point with your mentor where you don't want anything to do with your mentor anymore.
Yeah.
And it was really built to be like Young Avengers, Teen Titans-esque, and not like Go Teen Titans Go, but more
Yeah.
Young Justice type of shit. It's kind of got that flavor, and I like that a lot. I like that teenage heroes trying to figure out who they are, and I think some of that comes from like I always thought the Teen Titans were pretty cool. I always kind of dug them, and then I started listening to Teen Titan Wasteland, which then became Titan of the Defense. Which, if you haven't listened to it, you can listen to it now because it's over. And now they're doing Champions of Digression, which is sometimes they do the champions, and sometimes they just talk about whatever they want.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, there's not a lot of champions to work with, so.
Well, they went. Titan of the Defense was 1 week they would do Teen Titans, and the next week they would do Defenders.
Sure.
And they got all the way through the new Defenders, and then they were like, "Well, we've done everything, and we're to the point with Teen Titans where we don't want to cover anything else." But those Teen Titan Wasteland was all like the Bob Haney shit.
Okay.
And it's wild.
Oh yeah, because Haney didn't give a shit.
So there's some really fun stuff in there, and I like that idea of like teen heroes, using like ideas of like reality warping characters who can make it seem like, maybe even use like the trope of the mind wipe, except for saying like, oh, like a Mr. Mizopedalic style character makes all of your memories like Silver Age. But they weren't. So you're like trying to dig out through that, kind of going, oh, huh.
Right.
But also I think with a game like that, it's figuring out the tone and tenor.
Yeah. I'm bummed that the because they had like the last thing that came out for Astro City was like a sidekick focused one shot, and they were kind of like teeing up some stuff, but Kurt Busiek has basically had a migraine for 3 years.
Man, I fucking feel you on that.
So he hasn't really been working on a lot.
Yeah. That worries me when you hear something about like with like Kurt Busiek going through something like that. Then maybe it's like something physiologically that he's not willing to like bring up. It's mental health.
He's been pretty open about it as far as that goes, and he's been going to doctors and stuff and trying to deal with it. So I don't know.
Could have just chronic migraines, and I can't even imagine. There's a type of headache, I can't remember what it's called, where I was watching a Nova about it, and people like it's got one of the highest suicide rates for a condition, for a chronic condition, because they're like, people are like, this is so bad. It just, you're like, I would rather die than continue to deal with this. And it's one of those conditions where neurologists and everyone else are like not sure how to even deal with it. So when they go in and ask for help, people are kind of like,
yeah,
sorry, and as someone who has chronic pain problems, like I literally cannot fucking imagine that bad, and then you go in and they're just like,
yeah, no, I'm sorry.
So what I'm saying is I can't imagine being a woman, because if you look at statistics, fuck me, the way they're treated by physicians is
and then if you're a minority on top of that,
or if you're disabled,
yep,
and that includes non-physical disabilities, so like mental health. Yeah, it's anyway. Now that we've sufficiently bummed you out, and I would talk about yesterday's issue, but I don't want to be on a watch list.
Yeah, well,
I will say this. As much as I feel like the entirety of democracy is at risk, on a precipice the entire time. If you're on the democratic leftist, whatever side of things, and you think it's a good idea to kill somebody, then you're really not. Because as much as I think the Orange Man is bane upon all existence, there's no excuse to kill somebody. Especially when you don't even kill the person you're supposedly aiming for, but you kill a whole bunch of other people. For fuck's sake. As much as I am adamantly anti-MAGA and think those people are pretty abhorrent, I don't want to see them dead. Don't kill people. It's fucking stupid. Don't be that guy. What I'm terrified is it is going to be somebody who espouses a lot of left-leaning beliefs, and they're just going to demonize them because it's an easy way for that side of the aisle to forget every other shooter who's got a manifesto.
Yeah.
But look, this guy tried to kill our God Emperor.
And there, it's not 1-to-1. It's a double standard, and nothing we can do about it.
Not to mention the completely cynical part of me that goes, they've been talking about red flag operations for like 15, 20 years, and every time they bring something up, it turns out to be an admission.
Yeah.
That scares me even worse. Anyway, don't kill people, and also free Palestine. Fucking for God's sakes. I never ever want to hear again someone talk about how they're pro-life when they're just okay with an entire group of people being systematically annihilated. I'll tell you what, if you only get your news from mainstream sources, you want to know why they're getting rid of TikTok? Go to TikTok and look up Palestinian Voices on there and see some of the footage that you'll eventually hear about once the final death toll is talked about, and we talk about what a tragedy this was and how did we not know? Motherfucker, you did know. You just didn't want to look at it. Makes you so angry. I'm completely befuddled by man's inhumanity to man. Ugh. Sorry, Matt.
No, that's okay, man. I get it.
I'll never understand how we as a nation decided at some point that Middle Eastern equal bad. It's the most rudimentary baseline racism. Oh, you have brown skin, you must be bad. You have an accent, you must be bad. You are other, must be bad. Like, people are a fucking action movie villain from the 1980s. It's just depressing. It just makes me kind of go, are we that dumb? Are we that gullible as a populace?
Right.
Matt's typing furiously a letter of apology to the federal government. I don't even know this asshole. This motherfucker. Anyway, so here's my Chaos Sar.
Oh yeah, Chaos Sar. No, I'm
also like one person might be watching this, and no one's gonna watch this. I'm convinced. I'm convinced no one watches any of this shit, which I'm fine with, actually. But I tell you what, if you are someone that does, thanks, man.
Yes, we do appreciate anybody who watches.
And we really hope you watch when we do charity stuff. Because that's when it matters the most.
Yes.
And that if you can do us the honor of parting with just a tiny bit of your hard-earned scrap to help other people who are not as fortunate, we really thank you a great deal. Yeah, it just means the world. Anyway.
Hell yes.
When you rang in to this terrible decision you've made this morning, I was looking up what a yurt is, And it's exactly what I thought it was. Okay, perfect. So here's the premise. I decided I wanted to do something different this session, and I had a weird kind of thing that had been floating in the back of my mind for a while that I kind of wanted to get to, but I think now is maybe a good time. And then it led to some other weird brain stuff, and I was like, okay, let's just smush these into one. So here's the elevator pitch. I'll try to keep it short as possible. It's real hard for me. Group of monster hunters roll in. They haven't been there in like 7 years. They've rolled in like 4 or 5, no, not long, like 3 times in the past and taken up residence during the winter.
Okay.
This time they roll in, and what they're doing is they're prepping to hunt gem crust in the spring, like right when winter ends. PCs find out that like their building that they live in, actually these guys, whenever they roll in, they construct a new building.
Oh,
it's kind of like their way of like saying, hey, hey, we're going to spend a bunch of money, we're going to help out the economy, but we will be there's a lot of us, and we will be loud, like we will be rowdy. This is the off season for us. Last time they were there was when the Six were in charge, so they haven't been there since Drysdale took over.
Okay.
Also, they're hunters. Like they're not there to be helpful. So they roll in. Winter, like this giant storm is at their heels.
Okay.
And as they roll in, and the PCs kind of have to intermix with these people. Someone comes to them and says, "Can you come with me?" And the PCs come, and there's like a mother, and she's like, "I can't find my kids. They were outside the wall, and I'm worried they'll be caught out in the storm. Can you find them?" And the PCs are able to easily track them to this Bramblemore, just Briarmore.
Okay.
Which sounds better, Briarmore or Bramblemore? It's basically going to be this giant, almost hedge maze like thorn briar. Like, yeah. I think, what was it? Like the first, like Huntsman, Snow White and the Huntsman movie, there was something like this. I just thought it, like, visually, it was really cool looking. Maybe it was the first one, where it was like they did like the pull away CGI overhead shot, and it was like this, it was like a hedge maze of briar.
I almost like Brambleton better than Bramblemore, but
Bramble what?
Brambleton, but
ton.
You can Brambleton.
Oh, but it's a geographical area, not a town.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I think Bramblemore is better.
Okay. Then I can do what my wife does and goes, thanks, Matt. I'm going to go with Briarmore, because now that I've had a chance to think about it and bounce that idea off to someone else, I really do like what I've come up with. So now we'll get to the points of times like, why are you asking me this when you're just going to choose the opposite of what I say?
I mean, that's sometimes you want the feedback to be like, no, I think I like what I was going with anyway.
What I realized, she's had to explain it to me a couple times, is it's more or less I get to be the other side of her brain, walking through the process, so she can have the dialogue externally rather than internally.
Right.
And it's less about like, I want your opinion. It's more about, I want someone to argue against where I already feel like I'm going.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But like when you don't have that context and someone does that to you, you're like, why are we having this conversation?
Yeah. Do you need me here?
Yeah. I mean, like, you could just literally type this shit out. Like, that's what I would do. Anyway, so these folks, I got to come up with who the hunters are. They've got like 6 carts worth of people, and they also have like a battle wagon.
Oh, wow.
And the battle wagon is just this like heavily, hey, Super Spike. The battle wagon is like this big steel-plated wagon with like all kinds of gadgets and gadgets on it. Like, it's got a big ballista on top. It's been alchemically treated. It's and the only reason I think of that is like, I don't know if it's from a video game or something, but like I remember getting an STL set off a Kickstarter, and that was one of the models in it. Was like this wagon that, you know, they kind of showed like you basically dropped it off, and it was like a mobile battle platform used for killing dragons. And I was like, that's fucking cool. Also, there's a Troy Baker Forgotten Realms series of books. I think it's 4 books, and some of the characters are dragon hunters, and one of the dragon hunters is like half man, half machine. He's had this machine like literally like cut in half body because he was so horribly attacked in a dragon attempted killing of a big dragon, and they alchemically sealed him to this metal body.
Jeez.
I was like, but they like had this battle wagon thing. I absolutely loved that like concept. I mean, in that book, like it always like had a strong like visual, like it inspired like my imagination of like the visual representation inside of it. And I kind of like that idea of using something like that. Hell, I might even just look up who those characters are and use them, even though we're not in the Forgotten Realms. Although I think he gets cured at the end of that. He gets fixed. Anyway, so they follow these things. They go to the Bramblemore, and they make their way in. They see like where the wagon. One of the things I want to point out is like where the wagon train literally just comes out of the Bramblemore, and the more they go in, there's no wagon trail.
Oh,
so they just came out of the Bramble.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is they walk into the Bramblemore, they walk right into the Feywild. So these hunters took a shortcut through the Feywild. And these kids went in after where they came from, trying to figure out what happened. So they get there and they meet a character who's like, depending on like, I'll even make a charisma save at the beginning. Either looks like a coyote walking on 2 legs, or is a guy wearing like a coyote like headdress and all this stuff, who's basically like a fae, like a lower fae power, who's like a trickster.
Okay.
And this trickster has what looks like a giant on 2 legs with 2 arms walking cabinet of curiosities as like a sidekick, who has like in the middle where there's generally one of those cabinets, there's like a little mirror with a shelf. Instead, it's like Manny faces, except for it's like eyes, middle of face, and mouth that spin to me. Like Dilamug,
yeah.
Yeah. That's like with him. And what they figure out, and I think I mentioned this yesterday while we were watching Wrestle Me. I gotta look up in my notes real quick what to remember the exact name of it. They made an offhand comment in there that I was like, that is such a D&D name that I absolutely have to steal it. Here, the Pity Wives. So eventually this spirit whose name I got to figure out and all that jazz. He trades with them to tell them where those kids are. And what he wants is 1 year from each of them, one of their 5 senses. He doesn't want to steal it from them. He just wants to be able to
use them.
Yeah, he wants to live vicariously through that.
Sure.
So whatever you can see for a year, I get to see it. Whatever you taste, I get to taste it. Whatever you touch, I get to touch it. Which I'm real intrigued now when I think about that. Like, will those PCs even say yes to that? Because it's kind of a big ask when you think about it.
Yeah.
To go, oh yeah, whatever you use one of those senses, like, oh, it's not like just some of the time, it is all the time for a year. I get that. So what they find out is the Pity Wives are a coven of hags who have like you've seen Mystery Science Theater: The Undead, right?
Yes.
The Roger Corman flick. We also watched it on Spoopy Boys. There's that scene where all the people show up, the commoners show up to make deals with the devil. I want it to kind of be like that, except for it's just women of the local areas.
Okay.
Show up. And what they mainly want is, they either want a husband, or they want faithfulness, or they want a child, or whatever. The pity wives have these 3 children. And they're basically using them as like proof. Look, we can give you whatever you want. I can give you a child. What are you going to give me in return?
Yeah.
They have these 3 children as bargaining chips. And these 3 crones are kind of arguing like, well, maybe we should just keep one. Well, maybe we should eat one. I want them to also have that thing where I was thinking about this, where they talk and like one is the main and the other 2 like almost repeat, but change it. Like one might say, oh, we're very scared of you. Frightened. Yes. Terrified. Oh no. And that's 3 different people talking like almost on just at the very tail end of each other. I kind of like that idea. But so they have to show up, and maybe they see some people they know under these hoods of people that are at the pity wives. In fact, the one character who kind of stood out to me, who might be a good potential person to be there. That's not the right one. It's the one before that. It's really sad that I can remember my own state. The one that strikes me as being maybe a good one is Adeline Featherbottom, who they met when they had the big werewolf adventure, because it was her husband died.
Okay.
And her best friend ended up being the monster, who was also like kind of insinuating like, well, now that he's gone, I've been with you since childhood. I've always loved you. So we should be together. And I kind of like that idea of this character who they've opted to like continue to work with. She's a carpenter, to be like, and it almost feels like too that maybe Ryan's character has a little bit of a potential of a burgeoning relationship with, to like that's someone they recognize who's there. And it's like, well, why were you? We saw it, and maybe not addressing it right then and there, but like having them make a check and say like, hopefully they don't succeed in the check, but having them kind of realize like, oh, is that, and then being able to go like, this conversation's not over, because I think that also then leaves a string to pull later of like, how long have you known about these people? How did you even like? I know, explain like maybe who the pity wives are from there, and making the pity wives more of a thing. Because I don't want there to be a huge like. There doesn't need to be a huge fight there.
No.
Because the other thing, like when they go and why they go into the through the Bramblemore into the Feywild, is they hear children crying.
Oh.
And what it is it's this coyote spirit playing a violin. And they get there and they're like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, it's just my strings. Look what they're made of. And I want them to think like, oh fuck, that's made out of like the vocal cords of like children. I want them to think the worst possible thing because it's me. But what it is he's got like this vial of children's tears.
Oh.
And that's how he oils a string. I'm like, and he's like, well, how else do you think I get visitors from the mortal world? You guys just don't generally just like waltz in through this place. The Bramblemore is horrible. I mean, granted, there's this door here, and I have no interest in going into the mortal world. I mean, look, we're in the first world. This place rules. Everything's alive and vibrant and wonderful, and trying to kill you. But like first world's gray and drab and boring, but there's just more mortals. And I remember a time when you all used to worship us and used to come here and give us things and used to hold these huge festivals. And this is, you should be like, in his mind, time doesn't matter. So it's like, I remember when you used to hold festivals.
Yeah.
When fall died and winter came and the courts changed and you came to us and you asked our favor to survive the endless winters. We did that for you. And now what?
Yeah.
Now what? Now we're just tawdry stories. I love that idea of like the Fae being petulant, like thrown away lovers, basically. Like, you fucks. Like, we even more than your gods. The gods are above, and they're like, rarely do they ever come and interfere in your bullshit.
Yeah, they don't.
We are literally your next door neighbors from a cosmic standpoint. And you used to knock on our door for sugar constantly. But now you just pretend you don't know us? You fucks. I like that idea. So I got to figure out who this coyote spirit is.
Okay.
So let's really quick. Trickster spirits. I need a good name. And I don't care about like the origin so much as something I can build off of. Like, because I know that the trickster spirit is generally seen as a common element of mythology.
Yeah.
Across many different traditions. But I also really like the coyote as because I thought about using I don't think anyone in the game is as big a MST3K dorks as we are, but using like the name Yano for Yanaglanchi. Yanaglanchi sleeps nose to anus. I think, what do you think? Is Yano pretty good?
Yeah, I think so. I like that.
Also, Tori Yano from New Japan, also a trickster. Ray, God, I can't spell. Fae trickster, who dresses or just is a coyote. He travels with a walking cabin. It would be a walking sentient cabinet of curios.
Nice.
Golem. I'm trying to think of a good name for this. I want to give it like a weird, but like kind of that British butler style name. One of those things. Jeeves, Ardmore. So something like Dusty, but not Dusty, baby.
No.
Also, we were watching this Cajun cook the other day, or last night, make an andouille sausage version of queso fundido, which looked fucking amazing. And I will do this thing sometimes where we're watching people who have a heavy accent, and I will just repeat what they say, trying to mimic that, because I'm always like, oh, maybe if I can figure that out and commit it to memory, I can use that in like D&D.
Sure.
And Cassandra was like, that is literally a lisp away from Dusty Rhodes. And I was like, oh, fuck, it is. Dusty has like that Beaumont, Texas, but with a lisp. And this guy had that like Shreveport, because really those are like maybe 2 hours away.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap there.
But I like noticed like he talked much softer, and he definitely had the thing where leave off all of the final consonant of every word he say. And she's like, that's literally just like if you added the lisp. what a fee, babe. And he's like, also, I was like, anytime I talk about Liz, baby and daddy, it just flows right into anything I say. Just leave out the consonant of everything you say, baby. So I thought that was pretty funny. I was like, oh God, is Dusty my literal default setting? Everything is just Dusty Rhodes in the end. Like we're all gonna become crabs.
Yes, it's the destination of
the destination of all my voices is just Dusty Rhodes. That's right, baby. It's just me, Dusty Rhodes. American dream, if you will.
I'm gonna suggest Wyndham.
Ooh. Wyndham. Like Wyndham Rotunda or Barry Wyndham. Also, isn't that the name of what Wingard is?
That's Mastermind. Wyndham is High Evolutionary.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. What was his full name?
Herbert Wyndham. I don't know if there was more to it. Probably because comics.
I don't remember why. I don't know why I forgot that. Oh my God. I also want to point out something else. I've been going through the Fantastic Cast from the beginning.
Okay.
Also a podcast where they just go through every issue of the Fantastic Four. And they just finished the Kirby Lee run.
Oh.
And I'm like years behind. It's kind of one of those, it's a nookie blanky podcast. I put it on when I go to bed. Two British guys talking about Fantastic Four. It makes me tired. It makes me happy. And one thing they talked about, like to wrap up the Lee Kirby era, was the Lost issue. One shot that they did after Kirby died.
Oh, I do vaguely remember that. I think.
Where they had like other people like do some of the artwork. This spoiler alert, and if you love Stan Lee, turn the fucking stream off for 10 minutes. This is a ode to Jack Kirby. Guess who gets third billing?
Yeah.
Jack Kirby. You know who's on the cover as like who made this? Stan Lee. Stan put everybody like after himself. It's fucking gross.
Or whoever edited it did.
Oh, no. Because Stan did an editorial at the beginning of it. Talking about how he created the Fantastic Four. And, that Jack was the perfect artist for it. Not co-creator. Nothing else. Just artist.
I mean, the Stan doesn't understand. I mean, especially,
It makes me so angry to think about how Jack Kirby gets portrayed by the populace because one guy was such a self-promoting prick. And so one thing they did too at the beginning of the podcast is they found all these clips of other artists and Joe Sinnott, who was an inker, and all these people who worked with Kirby talk about Jack Kirby. And I love the fact that all of them, none of them mentioned Stan. They're all just like, that dude was just like, I think it was Romita Sr. was like, Jack Kirby is responsible for basically the foundation of the Marvel Universe. And if he had not left, he would have been responsible for everything after that. Because he could not stop.
Yeah.
He was like, think about all the things he created at DC. That would have also been Marvel, but it would have been different, but it would have been, decidedly Jack. And like listening to them talk so glow. Joe Sinnott, who is famous for inking Jack Kirby. Do you know how many times they met?
Well, twice, maybe.
Twice. They never met in person. They met twice. Once in an elevator. They never called each other. He said the first time they met and Jack realized who he was, he said, I just want to tell you thank you. It means a great deal to me how hard you work on this. And he said, and then we didn't talk for like 10 years when we saw each other at a convention. And he did the same thing. Very warm and friendly. He said, but it was just like, we didn't travel in the same circles.
Yeah.
And he talked about how he got that job. He said Stan just called him and said, he's like, I was an artist. who wasn't getting work. And Stan was like, hey, you want to ink this Kirby for me? Because the other person is unavailable. I said, sure. And I inked it, and it came out well. And then all of a sudden he asked me the next month, and then the next month, and the next month. And before I knew it, that's all I was doing.
Well, when they're normally giving you Coletta, you're going to latch on a good guy.
But I didn't realize that Kirby took Sinnott with him to DC.
Oh.
I believe that's true. I know Kirby took an inker with him to DC.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And it was one of those things where he told DC, like, this is the person who inks my work. It wasn't like, hey, I prefer this person. It was, this is the person who inks my work.
Yeah.
And it was just like super fucking cool, like to again hear how awesome Jack Kirby was, which makes, in hindsight, Stan Lee feel even more like a shit heel. It's kind of like when we were watching that thing on Wrestle Me yesterday about John Cena. I think you left before that finished.
Yes.
As they say at the end of that, they're like, hey, total Bellas or whatever, total Divas, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, he's both.
You want to see John Cena act like a robot, a cold, uncaring, creepy robot? And if you like Daniel Bryan, do you want to see more Daniel Bryan that'll make you love him even more? Watch this show. Because they cut to a thing where he's just like, he and his wife are outside, and the Bella that Cena was with, it's like, can you spray tan me? And Brian's like, what? And she's like, well, John just likes it when I'm more tan. And Brian and the Bella he's married to like look at each other like, that is fucking insane. That is insane. What are you talking about? Because Brian's like, you look great. What are you talking about? Like, there's no reason for you to do this. Yeah, but John really likes it. And it's just like you're watching this and you're just like,
yeah,
this is the watch that episode. If you watch nothing else of WrestleMania, watch 2 episodes. Watch the fucking Slammies episode, which is, I laughed so hard. My wife, I had it on during work, and she was in a meeting upstairs. She messaged me to stop because they could hear me on the team laughing, and she was like, "You are literally shaking the floor." I was crying. I was laughing. It was so good. And then the John Cena one, because terrifying. What a fucking, I hope he's better now. Because my God.
I mean, trying to have any kind of a normal relationship with, when you both have that job and then it's also a reality show. Like,
it's not even that, Matt. Watch it. It is scary.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, that's not.
Like, I feel like I'm about 90% sure John Cena has worn the face of another person. Like, not a mask. Like, he has meticulously cut a face off another human and then worn it. Or tucked his pee-pee and danced around. He's a serial killer in that. He is a oh shit. Matt, you just sent me a link on Etsy?
Yeah, I know you've been looking for one.
Wow. That is a really good looking Red Shadow, huh?
Yeah. He's got some other good stuff, and he delivers real quick.
I follow this guy on eBay.
Yeah, I don't know if he's sometimes got different stuff on Etsy or what.
Yeah, this one hasn't been on eBay.
And maybe it will be eventually. But yeah. This also seems
because he's got that that I just followed some of these Hulk heads he had yesterday. Yeah, he's a good. Yep. I bet you I follow this person on eBay too.
Well, that's the same guy.
Yeah, I've been looking at these heads too because I like them for like a weird like group of dudes on
yeah, it's definitely got the Motu vibes. Yeah, I was going through Etsy because I forgot I had a thing up with my Etsy stuff, and I was like, oh, yeah,
Spike, do yourself a favor and go and watch those 2 WrestleMe's. They're only about 20 minutes a piece, They're very funny, but the Cena one is disturbing. Like it's straight up, because the whole thing is it's juxtapositioned with the Miz and Maurice doing skits of John and the Bella, and it makes it feel even worse. And like I point out in Wrestle Me, it's like the impersonation they're doing of John Cena doesn't bother John Cena. John Cena doesn't care. But they're literally, I think he was with Brie, wasn't he? Or I can't remember the Bellas.
It's Nikki.
Nikki
Was the one that
he's like, imagine, Maurice is doing an impersonation of you and talking about how John will never marry you and how it'll leave you in the end, you'll have no children, you'll be buried.
I mean,
and how dark that is, because it turns out that that's the truth. And then she had to have kind of known that's the truth. And they were like, the match might have ended, but the angle goes on forever because it's real life. And how sad that is. And it is just like, whoa. It is hard to watch in a good way, because it's not us.
Yes.
You fuck around on reality TV, don't be surprised. If he's doing it in a weird way, he's the greatest. That's an Andy Kaufman-esque performance.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh yeah, if this is acting, then oh boy, and if it's not, oh shit.
Yeah, like they were saying, they're like, it's so weird that it also like it could just be they're like, if we're making cover for Cena on this, it could just be that he's wound so tight all the time. As being the face of the company, also realizing he's getting older.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out like what his next steps are. Also like protecting himself financially real hard, since he fucked around on his first wife and she definitely got what she deserved money-wise out of him. But just like how disturbing of a control freak he is. And there's a couple scenes in there where they're at a dinner table and Danielson looks at him like, I thought I kind of knew who you were because we worked together, but this is fucked up. Also, like the fact that Johnny Ace could give two shits about anything.
I mean, Johnny's a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a giant piece of shit. And you're just like watching him be completely just. We were talking about it after you left, and I was like, if you're Danielson, that's such a terrible spot to be in.
Yeah.
Because your boss is there, who's also your father-in-law, and your coworkers there, who also, no matter how big you got, was always going to be one rung above you, minimum.
Yeah.
And they're like kind of bossing you around in your personal life now. It's wild.
It's a weird situation.
Oh, it's way worse than that, man. It's a billion times worse than that, which is crazy because you hear like people like James Gunn talk about him and how he's like hilarious and like super laid back. And I kind of do wonder if two things didn't happen. If he got out of wrestling and was like, I can fucking breathe and and then saw some of this shit and was like, I'm an insane person.
Well, yeah, just the story that Gunn had about after his dog died or whatever, and Cena, kind of helping him through it. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh man. So speaking of that, we're way off topic. I don't care. James showed me like a thing that Chris posted about his mental health. So Chris, Vlad, whatever we want to call him. We did that charity stream for him. Chris is a great guy. He is an absolute sweetheart of a person. And he's doing better, which makes me infinitely happy.
Good.
He's getting ready to do like a super secret wrestling thing on the East Coast that he's kind of trying to get us involved in, which I'm fucking all about. It's like wrestling encrypted type shit, and I'm like, yes. So James is way closer to Chris than I am. James is literally closer to every wrestler than I am, which he would get real pissed off sometimes. When we would have people on the podcast and they and I would hit it off, and he'd be like, "Oh, best friend now, huh?" Or would tease me about Cannon. The Cannon and I Pop and I were friends on Facebook, and Pop would occasionally just message me and see how I was doing. And he was like, oh, he doesn't do that with me. We're not friends on Facebook. And I'm like, motherfucker, you have conversations with him all the time about like the actual business of wrestling. Don't do that. And I know a lot of it was just James needling me as well. Anyway, because he knew I would react like that. Chris wrote this thing about like how he was doing. And one thing he said that really, really hit hard was he said, you know, when I was going through, you know, my roughest points, somebody that I know reached out to me and just was there for me. And he didn't name him by name, but you can tell by the context clues who it is. Their real life initials are MS. Their wrestling initials are MQ. And they said, it is not my job to rehabilitate the wrestling image of MQ.
Yeah.
But it is my job to say that MS as a person, I appreciate so much, and their friendship means the world to me because when I needed somebody, they were there. And I was just like, that really hit me hard because I thought about, you know, like, again, we're just talking about John Cena, how much we don't know about people, especially like people who aren't directly in the spotlight, who are in smaller promotions. You know, you may not be the best person, let's put it this way, but I have an appreciation for you as a human being if you are there for people in their darkest hours, to be there for them, especially when there's no tangible gain to it. Because there's a lot of people, they'll be there for you when there's something in it for them.
Well, and some of that, I mean, that's, you know, that's like, well, there, you know, there is the, well, they've always been nice to me. And it's like, okay, well.
Now, if you're always nice to someone and you're a complete shitbag, that's different. But I think it's important, though, too, if someone is trying. And one thing I will say about MQ is I don't think there were a whole lot of receipts involved in that, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
It was just the fact that, generally speaking, unfortunately, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, you find out someone who used to work for you, who you had a big hand in their life, you see that they're in trouble, and you reach out, like,
yeah,
that's a good thing. And I wish more of us would do that. And I hope everyone who watches this consistently, which is just you, Spike, you're our only Abba Zabba, you my only friend. We're here for you. And if you watch this later and you're like, hey, things are rough, are you guys here for me? Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
That's just who we want to be as humans. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I think it's important. I think it's truly important to make sure that people are aware of that. I know Colin talked about his struggles a couple different times now, being incredibly brave and incredibly honest and forthright about what, you know, he's going through. And one thing he mentioned when he and I were just talking was, you know, is just like after things got real bad, recognizing none of us like ran away from that. I do wish that someone, myself, whoever it was, would have noticed that earlier. Hey man, Super Spike, you're like you're always here. You're like you're a part of everything, whether you realize it or not. So,
yes.
Absolutely. And may BOMUS be upon you. So I think it's important. I think it's important to like be there for one another. We're in some weird times, and we need to make sure that we're all very aware of helping, and just being good human beings and friends and coworkers and spouses and parents and lovers and haters and whatever. Just be there. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah.
Because I would want someone there for me.
It's going to be an interesting few months here, and it's going to be tough for a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So we gotta help each other. We gotta be good to one another.
Yeah.
And look for the stuff that we have in common more than the stuff that separates us.
My dad sometimes would say, we're all alone, but we're all alone together. I'm not like, I don't think I always understand what he would, when he would say things like that in his hazes of issues towards the end of his life, especially. But that's one that stuck with me because it always hit me as like, I think we're all alone if we choose to be all alone. But I do think like we all have our shit that's just our shit. It's our trunk that we've thrown in the bottom of the lake. But I do think we all can stand around the bank together and see that we all threw shit in there and then go, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Well, I'm okay too. Let's be okay together. So I don't know. Find your folks, and we are there to be your folks. Back to D&D. Back to let's get into the real shit. So I also have to figure out like these hunters.
Yeah.
I feel like I have kiss my butthole.
Good, thanks.
Like I kind of feel like I have a handle on the Failwives.
Yeah.
But I at least want to get a handle on like maybe the primary hunter and like one or two underlings so I can fill the rest of that out as we go.
I can't remember if you've used them elsewhere, but do you just want to use the Ames team?
I've been using the Ames team.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember in Chaos Sar, their man in the chair a lot is Jeff. I can't remember what his full name is.
I think that about another because it feels like it would almost be easy to just take kind of an existing group dynamic.
But that's the thing, yeah. I do want though to like them to be. I like the idea of reskinning a group, but I kind of want to figure out a way to do that. Like I thought about too for when you just said that was like the Sinister Six. But like figuring out a D&D equivalent would I think is like what's I'm getting caught up on.
Sure.
I'm sorry I'm making like slurpy noises with my cup. I'm making bad drinking noises. But that's how the Caribou Cup work.
So are these guys good, bad, neutral?
Neutral. They are straight up true neutral in D&D sense. They are out for themselves.
Okay. So
and they have like a cadre of hired help. So, like I said, they have like they're like almost like a cattle train would be. Like they have like they have cooks. They have people who butcher for them. Especially when they kill a monster. They have people who take care of their clothes and armor. So there's like a hunting crew, and then there's like all their employees, and they're successful. I mean, they get 6 wagons full of people. I mean, I would say they don't even have a wizard primarily. They have like a utility wizard who does like mend and all that shit. They might have somebody in the group who's a caster, but they have like they are making money. They're making moves, making $1 million moves. By the way, if anyone's ever like, I wonder how this chunky ginger gets like in the mood to do this stuff. Here's what I'm listening to right now.
You're definitely a music driven.
Yeah, I need music at all times. I need noise at all times, I should say. Because right now I'm listening to These Streets by Laserhawk, and it's pretty great. It sounds very Judge Dredd. We watched Dredd yesterday.
Oh, good flick.
God damn, it's a good movie.
Yeah. See, now you got me thinking, like, is there, like, so what if, like, the core group of these hunters was just, like, Van Halen?
So,
or some other band.
Oh, fucking, that's a really good one. Because Van Halen is a 4-man band. 2 brothers.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
And then if you need to, you know, there's you can do, you know, Hagar or Sharon if you need to some extra.
I kind of like if it was Hagar and Roth in the same band.
Yeah.
So you have like 2, like maybe one guy is the older guy who doesn't think they need to be replaced, but who's still kind of calling the shots, but the other guys are all kind of like now throwing their weight behind the younger guy. Slowly but surely, like, oh, fucking this guy needs to retire. And the real power behind the throne of the 2 brothers. So we need 5 names. I'm thinking that the 2 brothers are dwarves.
Dwarves. Okay.
So I kind of want their last names to be Ludwig, or one of their first names to be Ludwig. Because isn't that what Eddie Van Halen named his kid?
Yes.
So I want to give these 2 dudes like famous composer names. So like Ludwig and
well, so yeah, I mean, let's see.
What's some more famous composer name? Classical period.
Yeah.
Should it just be Wolfgang and Ludwig?
I mean, those are
they sound very D&D.
Yeah.
And we'll do it Wolfgang. What's the last name? We need a good dwarf last name.
Oh.
But we'll put a Van in there.
Sure.
No, we'll say the Van for the main dude. For our David Lee Roth guy. We'll have a Van in the middle. Dwarf last names. Generator. Bow, bow, bow.
Yeah, I'm
trying to. I open the generator. The first name is Hedgrim Brew. Ooh, Caskfinger. Ludwig and Wolfgang Caskfinger.
Yeah.
Because weren't Van Halen big drinkers?
Yes,
I believe they were. Okay, who's our David Lee Roth guy? What's his name? It's got to have a van in it.
Okay. Let's see here.
And I think his last name should be Van Panama. It's got to be something wild, and the last name is Van Panama. Can we all agree upon that? Van Panama is the last name.
Yeah, Van Panama works. Let's see here.
But it can't be like Jeff Van Panama, because that shit sounds like an NXT name.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Which I got to send a Warrior real quick. Just because whenever I get an NXT name, it's got to go to Warrior.
Okay, so so Roth means red. So if you were to do
Roth Van Panama is pretty fucking good.
But you could also change, you know, it could be like Rosso, because that's red in Italian.
I like that too. Like this? That's it. That's all right. What about our Sammy Hagar analog? I think we go with Samuel.
Okay.
I like Samuel. Rosso Van Panama. I don't know how to make the little squiggly boy above the end. If I did, I would totally do that.
All right. So.
And his name will be the Haggard.
So Hagar the Horrible's dog is named Snurt.
It could just be Samuel Haggard.
Yeah, it could.
But it also sounds very, very, very fucking country.
Yes, it does.
There's a big goily stain on my back brace.
Let's see here.
And then the last member of Van Halen was the guy who looked like a rock and roll version of Arn Anderson, whose name I can't remember. You know what I mean? He did look like rock and roll Arn Anderson, though. Samuel. Oh. I'm trying to think. Wasn't Hagar in like Montrose?
Yes. You could also go with
would Samuel Montrose work?
It would. I mean, he's also got his Cabo Wabo tequila brand.
I think Montrose. Montrose sounds like suitably fantasy or even sci-fi.
Yeah. Okay, now let's see.
Who is the last name or who is the guy from Van Halen?
It's
dude from Van Halen. Let's see if it comes up with it. Alex Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, Michael Anthony, the most fucking generic white guy name ever.
Yeah.
But he does look like rock and roll Arn Anderson. You can't tell me he doesn't look like rock and roll Arn Anderson. Matt, when's your out today?
I'm good for another, 15 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to touch base with Danny before she's going to go see Longlegs with her brother today.
One of my friends, Justin, who's in the Poopy Boys Facebook group, and someone I worked with previously who I consider to be a really, really cool guy and a huge horror guy, went and saw it, and he messaged me yesterday and said, saw it in the theaters. It is one of the better horror movies I've seen in the last 10 years. But it is by far the best horror movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Dang.
And I'm like, holy shit, really? Like better than Where Evil Dwells? And, like, that's high praise, man, especially coming from him. Although he and I, our horror tastes are a little different from one another. Like, he is a giant Friday the 13th fan. Like, he fucking loves Friday. And I'm very like, Friday the 13th's good. I enjoy it, but I don't consider it like high art. But when he's like, oh, this is something else, makes me go, ooh.
Super Spike's got a good one there. I don't know if you saw that.
Cabo Wabo Cobalt Attendant. Yes.
Cabo Wabo. And I was going to say Samuel Montrose could be also known as the Scarlet Stalker, because that's kind of a hunting version of the Red Rocker.
Oh God, I forgot. Yeah, he called himself the Red Rocker. Okay, yeah, I love that. I fucking love that. Oh, Ryan got back to me. That is a great one. I can't wait for someone to figure this out tomorrow night. Like, is this just Van Halen?
I mean, if you have Rosso doing, air splits.
Oh, I'm
And
gonna have
scatting.
him be very like flamboyant, like in everything. Like I'm thinking like almost like a dandy dueler.
Yeah.
Like everywhere he walks is like he's going down a runway, like the sachet walk. All right, we need Michael Anthony. Last thing we got to do.
The most generic fucking. Uh,
But it's gonna be like it's gotta be D&D.
yeah. Well, so his actual last name is Soboleski.
No wonder he decided to call himself Michael Anthony. By the way, man, thank you for Terror and Lord Grasp. They really look good.
Yeah, they did a great job with those. Let's see here. And yes, he was in Chickenfoot with Sammy Hagar.
Oh, what if he is?
You could just call.
What if he's like Eric Coker and his nickname is Chickenfoot?
Yeah.
He was a bassist. I was gonna say he could be like Flying V. We need an Eric Coker name.
So he's got his personal website is called Mad Anthony's Cafe.
All right. Let's call it because my coffee's making me feel kind of squishy inside.
Right.
Matt, where can people find you? I'm going to figure this out. If you want to know what we named this fool,
I like Matt Anthony, but
Matt Anthony?
Yeah.
How about Man Anthony?
Yes, there you go.
And his nickname is Chickenfoot.
Yes.
He could be a Kenku. Because Kenku can't speak on their own. They have to repeat. They speak through echolalia.
Oh, just like a bassist, where they're not allowed
exactly. You're not allowed to have your own thoughts and feelings.
It was.
You have to just.
I can't remember what I think it was. I think it was Eagleheart, the Adult Swim show. And they like cloned a guy, and he to be all the different positions in a band, and like, and so whose complete lack of ego makes a perfect bassist.
Poor Jason Newsted. Justice for Jason.
Anyway, you can find me here most Sundays. You can find me on the game.
Fair. It's fair.
Fair. Every other Tuesday, so not this coming Tuesday, but the one after, and then I bounce around. So that's me.
Oh yeah. Tomorrow, Chaos Sar. There's going to be, I think, some changes across the board on some stuff, as I've got some folks who I think are going to have to bow out for the foreseeable future. So there'll be some adjustments going forward on a couple of the long range games. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet. Real life is real life, guys, and it's greater than fake life. So it's unfortunate, and we will support those individuals and hope that things slow down for them.
Yes.
Because, like I said earlier, we care. That's how it should be. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer while you put the Gom Jabbar on their neck. Gom Jabbar. Chaos Sar tomorrow night. Meng on Tuesday. I think I'm going to put together the Executioner on Tuesday. Also, for those that didn't see, I think I put this public. I did this version of Triclops, and god damn, does he look good. And I'm working on trying to figure out how to do the best version of this.
Did you see the next Masterverse wave?
Yeah, I did see it. There's some cool shit in there.
Yeah.
The God Jabbar. If you haven't seen that Min Bim Bam animated, it is one of my favorites. At the very end, Griffin goes, I really hope you've either seen or read the Dune books.
Otherwise.
Yeah. Who's holding your other hand? It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and he has 10 Gom Jabbars. All right. Tiny Ming on Tuesday. That's all I have next week. Maybe I'll sneak something else in. I know today I'm starting a Stardew Valley game with at least my wife, probably Doug, and whoever else wants to play.
Nice.
Because I'm going to start a new Stardew Valley farm, and it's going to be good. because I need some more relaxation in my life. Otherwise, thank you for hanging out. Sorry, my stomach has become an enemy of the state. Matt's got to go handle his business, baby. Yeah. BOMUS to you all. We hope you're well and take care of yourselves and watch out for the Gom Jabbar.